Hello, it's that time again when we get to tell you all about the wonderful and inspirational events and people from Lincolnshire. Today's guests are two inspirational people from Lincolnshire who create music, they love to sing, and we will hear all about their endeavours. Let me introduce you to Rachael Elliot Wood and a returning guest, Philippa, also known as the Miracle Cure. Welcome to both of you.
Hello, nice to be
Hello.
here.
How are you guys today?
We are good.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you for taking the time to chat to me. I know that music and creating songs and singing very important to you. And what I wanted to chat to you about was about the Miracle Cure. How did it come about? And what's the story behind the band's name and what got you into creating the band?
So I've always been a musician in one form or other, and I used to perform as a solo artist, just my own songs by myself with a guitar. And Philippa and I went to it was a Sleaford Live event. Sleaford every year has this live music week, which is really fantastic, and we were performing at the Sleaford Live event. And it was just me and my guitar. And then Philippa, for I think it was just for one song. I can't even remember what it was. It might have been Hickory Wind. You might have been doing Hickory
I think it
Wind.
was, yeah.
And we sang a song in harmony, and everybody said, "Oh, well, that's so much better than what you do by yourself, Ellie." And I, and I thought, after I got over the initial crushing disappointment of hearing that, I agreed. I thought that's true. Actually, our voices go really well together, so we decided to keep singing together and performing for other people in that way, and that's how the duo was formed, and really the Miracle Cure. At the time we first started to perform, I was working full time as a medical doctor, and Philippa is still a clinical psychologist, and we kind of joked that all of our professional lives were about people asking us for a miracle cure to something
Oh, very
that
well done.
can't,
Yeah.
can't be cured, and so that's how we became the Miracle Cure, really.
That's quite a good sort of answer to the question, really, because it's your professional lives and your sort of personal lives combined together, and that's such a good way of answering that question with the name of the band and stuff. How long have you guys actually been singing together?
Oh, that is a good. Trying to remember now. So we
So
moved to Lincolnshire in
it was
2013.
30. It's been about maybe 6 years, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. That's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah.
Wow, I bet there's some fond memories of you guys singing together, and we'll discuss that as we go through the podcast and that. Um, what genre of music would you say your band falls under?
So we tend to get booked by folk clubs, and we perform as part of the folk music scene in Lincolnshire. So I think a lot of people would refer to us as a folk duo, but I don't. I I just write music that I like to hear, and I'm not kind of. I don't think I need to write a folk song to please people in the folk club, although that does cross my mind a little bit. But I think it's hard to answer. It's sort of I would just describe it as acoustic close harmony music that kind of goes across from Americana to folk to the very fringes of kind of indie music, like indie rock even, and alt rock. Even though it's just with an acoustic guitar and a violin. But I think that our music, it doesn't sound like traditional folk. We do sing about some traditional folky themes, but it doesn't sound like traditional folk, and it doesn't always have sing along choruses. And
Yeah, I think we kind of anchor ourselves to the folk genre, partly because we are part of the folk community in Lincolnshire, and it's one of the biggest music scenes, and it's an easy in, I think, a bit like Ellie's saying, in terms of kind of booking gigs and being part of festivals and things like that. But yeah, I think we would certainly be contemporary folk rather than traditional folk. And then I think, especially in your songwriting, Ellie, I think your folk isn't necessarily the central genre that you play with, but we really enjoy performing acoustically. I think that's very much at the heart of what we do. And then, as you say, the harmony, you're always writing harmony, don't you, really, in terms of, well, for the Miracle Cure, you do anyway.
Yeah, do you think audiences are changing, as the years go by? And, do you think because obviously folk has a bit of a stigma attached to it. Do you think what's when you say folk music, it's like images are conjured up. And having listened to your music, I know with your music, it's not like that. It's very, very brilliant music, if I can say that, after having a listen today. Do you think the age of people is changing?
Do you know what, Shelley? I think it's such a good question, because I think you're absolutely right. I think there is certain stereotypes that come to mind when you think of folk music. And to be honest, if you hang out in the Lincolnshire folk scene, you will come across exactly the things that you picture. But what was the event we were at recently? Was it the event at the Birdcage, and also the Lincolnshire Day of Folk, which takes place each year in Leadenham? I was having a conversation with a few people actually about how many acts there were that were with young people and quite diverse types of music. And I think there's always been a bit of a worry, I think, in the folk scene, certainly in Lincolnshire, maybe elsewhere as well, that there's a danger of it sort of dying out and it becoming an older generation thing, and it's sort of drying up and another genre is taking its place. And actually, I think what's been really encouraging is that, there's definitely lots of younger acts on the scene and new acts coming through. And I think folk is changing, but that's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think you'd have to look at the audiences who go to the Cambridge Folk Festival, really, to get a real feel for the people who are consuming folk music at the moment. Because actually, I feel that when I perform folk in Lincolnshire, I just see the same people and the same people getting older. And I must admit that I feel a little bit constrained by it, because I can remember we played a gig. We played a festival once in Norfolk, and one of the artists was a tremendous musician called Jess Morgan, about our age, and she was talking about how she had taken her beautiful, sublime, brilliantly written music to a folk club, and they wouldn't even let her finish her set because they said that it wasn't folky enough for them, and that was the end of that. And I think if I wrote sometimes what I really wanted to write, I don't think that it would go down very well in folk.
Yeah, because I was actually going to ask you about that. For people that don't know your music, or they will know your music by the time this goes out, for those who don't know your music, and you just said about writing songs, and if you're allowed to write the songs you wanted to write, how do you go about that? How do you go about your songwriting process?
Every time I'm asked that question, I give a completely different answer, and I think the reality is the process starts afresh with every new song, and every song that I've written that I've been proud of has come about in a completely different way. So I couldn't tell you that I have a system, and maybe that's why I'm not successful, because I don't I don't have a system. But some songs just come out of nowhere, and they almost write themselves, and some songs I can spend months trying to get right. And you just can't predict it, and you can't even predict what inspires the songs. You know, some of them are autobiographical songs, some of them are about things that I've read about in the paper.
One of them you wrote after watching a scene on the comedy show Scrubs. Do you remember?
I do remember that.
That was a great song, I thought.
Think, it's rubbish. Yeah. So well, with that, it was, I was just trying to get inspired. It wasn't that I found the scene in Scrubs like really moving or anything like that. It wasn't that. It wasn't anything like that. I was trying to write a song, and I was stuck. And I was watching Scrubs, and there was a scene where they had a kind of love song in the background there was a couple arguing or something, and I thought, if I was to write the song that went in the background of that scene, what would I write? You know, and like almost if I was commissioned to write that, and so I wrote something that I thought would fit that, and that worked quite well. That is something that I do actually when I write a song, and I've recorded it in some kind of skeleton way. I'll often play the song on top of a video of like stuff happening, and see if the music works with moving images, and you know, sometimes that can help. It helps me know if the song works generally, and they can be stupid videos like cars crashing or something.
But that's really interesting to hear you say, you know, where you get some of your inspiration from, you know, just sitting watching the TV. But I suppose if a song's going to come into your head.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've woken up in the middle of the night with songs, and I've run off to another room and recorded it very quickly in a dictaphone, and they don't always go anywhere, but that's where the ideas come from. And I did I keep meaning to do this again. I did a day where I tried to write 20 songs in a day, and
Okay.
well, because that's impossible. It is. I think it's actually impossible to do that. You don't feel any pressure, so you almost go out of your way to write the most rubbish, deliberately awful songs that you can, and out of all of that, something good emerges, and I do mean to do that again, because I think that's a good way of I don't know, switching the creative part of your brain on,
and the critical part of your the critiquey self-critical part of turn it off. Yeah, exactly. So you, like you say, because it's so impossible to write 20 decent songs, you just go, right, I've got to write something, and just another one. Yeah, and you free yourself up like that, I think.
Yeah, you know, sort of like listening to saying how you create your songs and stuff like that. You know, what do you hope people take away from your music? You know, is there, you know, do you want to make them happy? Do you want them to really listen to the words? You know, what do you hope that, I always like to say fans, but I'll say people. What would you like them to take away from listening to your music? Or what do you hope they would like to take away?
I think I want them to have, I want them to feel that it's been time well spent. I think that they've had a positive experience. I don't necessarily want people to feel happy when they listen to the songs, because a lot of the songs aren't happy, but I would feel that I had been successful as a songwriter if the people who come to listen to the music can connect with it, I guess.
That's where I was going with it. Connect, how people would like people to connect to it. Thank you.
But it's a really good word, isn't it, Shelley? And I think that's probably what we're all trying to do in whatever creative thing. It's about people connecting with it, people saying something or producing something that provoke some sort of reaction, or people feel that they can relate to it. And like Ellie says, it doesn't mean that is a happy feeling necessarily. It might be connecting and giving people something that fits with a difficult experience that they've had, and they feel is kind of captured in a song or validated through a song. Or you feel, I suppose it's that thing of like not feeling alone, isn't it? Like someone you're saying something that other people understand, and other people maybe feel more understood by something you said in a song.
I like the idea of the listener sharing something with me, and feeling that has happened. That's absolutely right.
J&S Plumbing. J&S Plumbing is your local, friendly, reliable plumbing and heating engineer covering Lincoln and surrounding areas. Our experienced and fully qualified heating engineers are on hand to carry out boiler installation, repairs and servicing. Just call 01522 708 208. That's 01522 708 208, or email sales@jasplumbingandheating.co.uk. I was going to ask you about, what artists would you say have played a significant influence on you, growing up or in the last few years? Has there been, they can be famous, they could be local. Has there been anybody who's really influenced you and you've gone, I want to be like them, or I want to be similar to them, or, sort of anybody who's really sort of influenced you?
There have been throughout my life, and but those influences keep changing, and I think that the best answer that I can give is that every so often, and it happens regularly enough, it happens as regularly as a couple of times a year maybe, I will listen to an album that completely astounds me, and is something that I could never have dreamed up in a million years, having not heard the album. But now that I'd listened to that, I can think of a myriad of new possibilities of things that I can do with sound as a result of having listened to that particular album. And these albums just pop up, and initially make me feel really bad about myself. They make me think, oh, I'm such a terrible songwriter. Like, listen to how brilliant this is, and listen to how rubbish I am. But those experiences are the experiences that influence me, because once I've got over myself, and I kind of think about just the music and just the creation, I think I want to do things like that. I want to push myself forwards. So in my earlier years, I think there probably were rock stars and people who were the front and center of bands, who were the leaders of the bands, and I kind of wanted to be like them, because I think I wanted to inhabit their lifestyle. But that doesn't happen so much anymore. Now I listen to brilliant writers and think, I want to write like that. And just I don't know, off the top of my head, people like Joanna Newsom recently, who she's her main instrument is the harp, and she's creating rock music and indie folk with a harp, and that's really special. And sometimes it's artists that I've just never heard before that are really famous, but I'd never heard them, and from the moment that I hear them, my creativity goes in a different direction, which happened when I first listened to Graham Parsons, for instance. So it's these albums that open my ears to new things, and make me realize that my view of music was very limited, and that's what inspires me.
Yeah, I think after having a listen to some of your songs today, and I would say you've got a new fan in me after listening on your website today. I listened to Oh Now, and also change. And I absolutely loved them. And I sat here and I said, I really, really like this music. So, you know, for me, I sat and actually listened to it, and it was, yeah, I really, really like this, you know. And I wanted to give you a compliment to say, yes, it's really nice music, and it actually made me feel really happy. You know, it did make me feel happy, you know. And I wanted to sort of talk about how music is changing, really, you know, because obviously we're in the age of social media, and we also do the live shows, and also people do live streams. And I sort of wanted to know from you guys if you obviously prefer the live shows or doing live streams, or, you know, do you like to do both, or?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose as the Miracle Cure, we've always performed live, isn't it? And actually, during the pandemic, I know there were some musicians and acts that did some online gigs or performances, and actually, we never did. I think for us, it's funny, even when we go to gigs, if we have the opportunity to do a gig where we don't even have microphones, and it's sort of intimate and it's really acoustic in the sense that we don't have a PA or anything, we actually even prefer that, don't we? I think. And so any technology that comes in between us and the audience, I think we like less and less. And actually, yeah,
I think it's a more personal and intimate when you go to see somebody perform. It's a lot better atmosphere, and it's more intimate, like you're saying, isn't it? Because obviously with the live streams, you just, people keep press play, they go back, they press play, you know.
Yeah, I think I like the extremes.
Oh, really?
So you know, I do like performing completely unplugged. That's my favorite way to perform live, because it's all on you as the artist. Then you can't blame anybody for
the sound guy.
You can't blame the sound guy. Not that
I do that quite a lot, actually. I blame my tech guy when things go wrong. So yeah, I know what you're saying.
But actually, what I really want to do, and what I haven't had the time to do really, is I want to make really kind of complicated recordings. I want to present our songs in a way that people won't be able to experience by just coming to see us. And I don't know if the people who like our music will be into that. Actually, I think a lot of people really like, they love watching us perform, they love the live aspect of it. But with these songs, I've got a version of the song in my head that is very, very different to what is being performed, and I don't think that people ever get to hear that, and I personally feel that it's a shame, and I want to be able to do the full orchestration, but you know, it's very difficult to do that, and you know, you probably need to hire session musicians and things to kind of get it all together. So it's time and cost,
resources
expensive,
generally, isn't it?
Yeah. And
so that would be kind of like a future project that you'd like to happen.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's what I see for the Miracle Cure album. Like, if we ever released an album, that's what I would want. And you know, if people were expecting an album that was just a guitar, a violin, and two voices, I don't think they're going to get that. So I don't know how to. I don't know how to placate the people that want that. Maybe I have to do a mix in the album, like, you know, a mixture of those.
No, I think like you say, they're kind of complementary. People can come and see us perform live in a more traditional folk acoustic way, and we have made a kind of rough cut CD, which is very basic. You know, and actually the recording of Nell that you'll have heard, Shelley, that's kind of how we've recorded some of the other songs on this sort of short CD that we've made. And I think, I think that's one way of presenting the music. But I think, yeah, I think if you're going to do the album, you go for it properly, don't you? You do it properly. You don't. You just market them as two different things. But yeah, because between, it's only the two of us, and instrument wise, we only really have guitar, violin, and you play some piano. But yeah, we know, for example, even drums we don't have. So yeah, it would be a much more complex project. But I'm up for it.
I've got a cajon.
You've got a cajon, yeah.
Yeah, let's organise it. If there's anybody listening on the podcast who can
get in touch.
I love collaborating. I think that all of the best music comes out of collaboration. There are plenty of musicians who are brilliant songwriters just by themselves, but when those brilliant songwriters work with other songwriters, they create something even better than what they've done in the past. And just popped into my head, for instance, David Bowie, fantastic songwriter just by himself.
Absolutely.
But when he collaborated with Freddie Mercury and wrote Under Pressure, or whenever he collaborates with anybody, when Lou Reed's Transformer album, it's better than the sum of the parts, and I think collaboration is definitely something that I want to do. Anybody who wants to collaborate with me, I'll bite their arm off.
Well, like I just said, we'll put the podcast out there. We'll put people in touch. We'll see what we can do. Anything is possible these days, with the power of social media. So we'll see what we can do on that one. Looking back on your career and stuff, has there been any sort of like highlights? I say any. Has there been highlights that you think?
None,
Yep,
Shelley.
none.
I was just saying, no, there's been no highlights whatsoever. It's all been terrible. Joking.
What would your highlight be?
So, I mean, I think my highlight, which isn't necessarily the biggest gig that we've done, and there's bigger gigs that we can be really proud of, but we did a gig as part of a music and sort of arts festival back in my hometown of Haddington in Scotland, and that was quite a surreal experience, but it was also really lovely. So Ellie and I went up there. We stayed with my parents, obviously, who still live in Haddington, and we performed in one of the local pubs in the town, and some of my old school friends came along, and it was such a kind of one of those kind of moments where you can kind of look right back through your life to school and even primary school, and then think about everything that had happened in my life since I left Haddington and went to university, and started my career, and then ending up in Lincolnshire. And it was just a really special place to go and perform, and special people to perform to. So that would be mine, I think.
And Ellie?
I think my musical career highlight was when I was a solo artist, and I played at the Union Chapel in Islington, and that, like, the place was sold out. That was just an incredible gig, and it was an experience that I want to have again. I'd look to that. My favorite experiences as the Miracle Cure have been when we've been performing with our friends. Whenever we've had gigs with people that we know well, it always feels just it feels less like a gig and more like just spending time with friends, and that includes the audience as well. It just feels like it's got more of a kind of informal party.
Yeah, I think it really makes you feel that sense of community, and, like you say, friendship. And that's one of the really lovely things about the folk music scene. Again, I'm mostly speaking for Lincolnshire because that's what we know, but yeah, there's a sense of that there is this community of people who are coming together to share the music, to listen to the music, to participate in the music, to perform the music. And so many of our friends in Lincolnshire are people that we met through the folk circuit, and they have become really good, genuine friends of ours. So yeah, I totally agree with that. I think there's something, and kind of almost any gig that we go and play, or gig that we go with as an audience member, there'll be someone there that we know, and it'll be like, oh, hi, nice to see you, saw you 2 weeks ago, you know. And it's just this sort of real sense of moving around this sort of, you know, you run into friends all the time. And yeah, it's lovely, it's really nice.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant, because it must give you sort of like a real, what's the word I'm looking for?
I think for me, it's a sense of belonging. Like, you know, we moved here, 11 years ago, and we could have ended up, you know, we didn't really know anyone here when we moved here, and we could have ended up, you know, struggling to meet people or whatever. And it's like this whole, again, community of people in the folk scene just welcomed us with open arms, and we fell into these friendships. And I think, yeah, that's the feeling that I get when we go to the, you know, the sing-arounds, the gigs, the festivals. There's this sense of belonging that, yeah, it's like a big extended family, I think, and you're always running into each other, but in a lovely way, sort of thing, which is probably not the word to think of, but that's how it feels.
Yeah, that sums it up brilliantly. And I was actually going to say, for the people who don't know you, where can people listen to you? Where can they find out about your adventures and your singing and your music?
Yeah, so the best place to find everything that's going on with the Miracle Cure is our Facebook page. So if you search for the Miracle Cure on Facebook, I think our handle is maybe Miracle Cure Music, because there might be more than one Miracle Cure listing, so double check. But it should be pretty obvious when you click on the right page, that it's us. And we list all of our gigs on there, and you know, we'd be absolutely delighted if you wanted to come along to one of our gigs. We regularly play around the county. For example, we've got a gig in Sleaford coming up at the Ivy Pub, one of their acoustic music nights. That's coming up towards the end of September, I think. So you can go on there. So Rachael Elliot does a whole load of other music things as well beyond the Miracle Cure. So performing solo, particularly in terms of classical voice and classical singing. And you have your own website, Rachael. What's your website address?
Well, you'll find it on our Facebook page.
Oh yeah, it's on there, but I think it's Rachael Elliot Woods.
It is,
like that.
but there are dashes in there.
Oh yeah, it's a bit complicated.
Yeah. We can pop all those links up on our social media.
The best starting point is the Miracle Cure Facebook page, and pretty much everything you should need is on there. And obviously you can contact us through that. We have an email address, or you can use Facebook Messenger. And yeah, we're always happy to hear from you.
Rachael and Philippa, thank you so much for talking to me today. We're actually going to end the show on a track that Philippa and Rachael are going to perform. If you'd like to introduce your track, I will say bye, and we will go out listening to your track.
So this is a track that you mentioned earlier in the podcast, actually, which is "Oh Now," and the story behind this is it's actually a completely true story that I read in the paper, and I was just it was just one of those bonkers stories that was really captivating, and it was a really long article, and I rarely read a very long article from the start to the finish, but I read the whole article, so I thought this is genuinely interesting. It's not just me, and I need to write about it. So it's probably our signature murder ballad, and I hope you enjoy it.
Rachael and Philippa, thank you very much.
There are no new stories under the sun, but here is a tale about Nell and John. On a thundery evening, weighed heavy with sin, Nell picked up a stone and bashed John's head in. Oh, Nell, what have you done? You opened his head and all the blood did run. The house it cried murder, there was no one to hear. Now how'd you keep your conscience clear? There was a singer in the cabaret style. John promised her riches if she'd walk down the aisle. Abandoned her children, crossed the ocean, did run, but nothing she sang would make the riches come. Oh, Nell, what have you done? You opened his head and all the blood did run. The house it cried murder, there was no one to hear. Now how'd you keep your conscience clear? John fell heavy the day that he died. Nell gathered some bags to put the body inside. A yard of tarpaulin to muffle his moans. The neighbors drank tea right under John's bones. Oh, Nell, what have you done? You opened his head and all the blood did run. The house it cried murder, there was no one to hear. Now how'd you keep your conscience clear? John lay in the attic, all muffled and bound. Nell felt it was time to put the corpse in the ground. As Nell dragged John's body to conclude the affair, the ghost of John Harper pushed Nell down the stairs. Oh, Nell, what have you done? You opened his head and all the blood did run. The house it cried murder, there was no one to hear. Now how'd you keep your conscience clear? So the story is ended and Nell's in the ground. The body of John by the neighbors was found. In her cabaret sequins, 'neath the judgment bell, stuck 2 fingers to God and she skipped into hell. Oh, Nell, what have you done? You opened his head and all the blood did run. The house it cried murder, there was no one to hear. Now how'd you keep your conscience clear? Oh, Nell, what have you done? You opened his head and all the blood did run. The house it cried murder, there was no one to hear. Now how'd you keep your conscience clear? How'd you keep your conscience clear?
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That brings us to the end of our episode. My thanks go to Ellie and Philippa, who make up the Miracle Cure. Thanks for joining and nattering. My thanks to my technical team for doing all the technical bits. If you enjoy our show, please subscribe to our podcast, available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple and Google Podcasts. And be sure to come back next week for more interesting interviews from the heart of Lincolnshire. Until then, this is Shelley signing off for now. We'll see you soon.